But this is the Birchglen coming in. She had been at anchor for some time, waiting on the James R. Barker to leave, and the James R. Barker leave Midwest Energy coal dock, and the Barker is left and is over to fuel dock. So the Birchglen is coming in from anchor to take the place of the Barker loading coal at Midwest Energy. And most of the coal that is loaded here goes to Detroit Edison and a few other Canadian and U.S. ports within the Great Lakes. But the Birchglen, when it comes here, usually loads coal, as she is doing today, for Belledune, a port in New Brunswick, Canada, a province of Canada, which is just north of Maine. So this boat will be going out into the ocean. You can see in the front, I'll zero in, you can tell that this is a boat for the ocean because of what's called the bulbous bow there, and you can see the whole slant of the bow is to beat off the big waves of the ocean as opposed to a cargo boat that you would see on the Great Lakes. And true to that, the Birchglen was built in Scotland. She was the Federal Mackenzie for a long time. Most of the time had an Indian crew. Most of the time came here and loaded grain and took it to ports in Europe and the Mediterranean. And the Canadian steamship purchased the Lady Hamilton and called it the Birchglen. It was started out as the Canadian Marquis. So it started out as a Canadian boat built, I think, in the early 80s. It was built for both saltwater and Great Lakes work. The benefit being that if a boat can go out into the ocean, it can work during the 2 months that Great Lakes boats only sit at anchor or sit at the dock during the winter. So this boat, I don't know if it's going to do it this year, but this boat is capable of spending the rest of the 2 months of winter out in the ocean. It probably isn't, I think, but I'm not at all sure about that. I'm a little homesick about this boat because when it was an Indian boat, I was on it, had some friends that were officers on the boat. I met them as I was visiting the boat and had some great Indian meals. I mean, delicious Indian meals. But that was that was yesterday. And in those days, it was a Great Lakes, or it was an ocean boat. It would come to Duluth, pick up grain, oftentimes to Thunder Bay, and/or pick up grain and take it to ports in Europe or the Mediterranean. And one year, I got a call from the captain of the boat from Houston, which I hadn't thought about too much before that. It was in December, January. In fact, I think he was calling me to wish me Merry Christmas from the Federal Mackenzie, which is this boat. And he is typical to him. He spends 12 months. Well, he's not on. He's on for 6 months, but the boat is usually for 10 months on the Great Lakes, bringing grain to Europe and the Mediterranean, and then for 2 months of winter, from mid-December to late March, the boat is out doing much the same thing, and oftentimes loading some of the same grain that we would be loading here out of Houston or New Orleans, in which case the grain went down the Mississippi River on a barge. And my camera is now between two poles, which is why I'm trying to keep it And when she was serious with Lady Hamilton, I doubt she never loaded coal. She always loaded grain. It was originally built, I think, to load wheat from western provinces of Canada, to get wheat from there, perhaps from Thunder Bay, take it over to Europe. And she will be passing the James R. Barker, which is over at the fuel dock now and should be, I think, departing. Barker must have backed into the dock because I think I see her over there and she's facing in the other direction. Then if she was going to come out to Duluth, she'll probably still come out to Duluth and would make a turn over there. Birchglen, built in Scotland in the early 80s, worked under many names, many flags, is here now owned by the Canadian Steamship Company, loading coal to take to Belledune, a port in New Brunswick, a province of Canada, on the ocean outside the Seaway, St. Lawrence Seaway, just north of Maine.